thought so much about the fourth defensive end spot for the Eagles going into training camp. Never in a million years did I ever think Daeshon Hall would win the job.
Kick the red, double move on the red.
You're by a do, King Ding back here. So the Eagles beat the Jags 24-10, just like I'm about to double moonwalk all your asses in Madden this weekend. I'm coming for all of you. All of you, you and you and you, and I see you back there, you, all you. You're all in trouble this weekend. But before we get into the Eagles-Jags game, we got to talk about some Eagles breaking news, something that's going on right now. The Eagles have finally signed offensive tackle Brent Toth of the Army. If you remember, we talked about him a few days ago. He is basically a guy who the Eagles wanted to sign, an offensive tackle, 6'6", 305 pounds. They are looking to sign him, but he's in the Army. So in order for him to be able to sign with the Eagles, he had to get a waiver from leadership in the Army saying, hey, yeah, you can leave the Army and go play professional sports. Well, they gave it to him. It's successful, and he signed a 3-year deal with the Eagles. And I think it's a very interesting signing. Is he going to be a tackle at 6'6", 305 pounds? They're going to try to move him inside. Can we really expect him to make the 53-man roster? I think probably not. I think they got plans for him on the practice squad. But we're going to see. And does the extra offensive lineman really make a guy like Big V expendable? It's interesting questions we're going to have to wait to see the answers to. But the Eagles signed this offensive tackle from the Army, and I can't wait to see what he's got and what he looks like. It's going to be very interesting. So as far as the Eagles-Jags game went last night, I got to tell you, I really took out more positives than I did negatives this game. Now, I've only had a chance to rewatch the first half once. It was late last night. I fell asleep. I'll be watching more this weekend. But, I thought there were more positives than negatives. Once again, Carson Wentz, the offense, they didn't start. Defensive starters played a little bit. Nick Foles did not play for the Jaguars, which kind of really took the juice out of this game, or the hype, having Carson versus Nick. That would have been very, very interesting, but it didn't happen. Instead, we get Cody Kessler, who comes out. I thought early on in his first drive, he wasn't doing too bad. Then he takes a shot. I mean, he took a shot to the moon. Okay, he winds up getting concussion, leaving the game, and in comes Clayton Thorson. Now, a lot of people were blaming Andre Dillard for the hit on Kessler, saying that he missed the block, but actually, Doug Peterson said no. It was actually on Cody Kessler. He should have seen the guy coming. That guy was supposed to come free. They had protection on the other side, and Andre Dillard did his job. Kessler's got to be able to pick him up earlier than that. So it is what it is. Kessler goes out, and in comes Clayton Thorson. Now, here's what I'm going to say about Clayton Thorson, because last week, I torched Clayton Thorson. I called him trash. I said he stinks. I killed Thorson after week 1 of preseason. And you know what? To be honest, I was wrong. And it was unfair for me to say it. I mean, the guy hadn't even got his feet wet. And, he comes out his first preseason game. I'm going, he stinks, forget it, he stinks, and all this stuff. That was unfair, because you could see from week 1 of the preseasons to week 2, he showed vast improvement. He showed he has some talent. I mean, I think he's got a pretty big arm. Did you see the pass he made to Agadosi at the sideline? I don't even know if he was trying to get it to him or trying to get to one of the guys in front of him, but it was a beautiful pass, beautiful catch, and Clayton Thorson really impressed me. I see why Doug and those guys, why they liked him. And I think for a developmental project, somebody to work with and develop over the next few years, I think Clayton Thorson has a lot of talent, a lot of upside. And I was wrong about him, and I apologize for killing him, because it wasn't fair. Clayton Thorson, I think he was 16 to 26, 175 yards, a touchdown, and interception. He had the nice touchdown to Ward. He had a blitzer coming. He underthrew it, but he made the right read. And Clayton Thorson is one of the guys that I was very, very impressed with during this game. No doubt about it. Clayton Thorson really impressed me this game. Another guy that really, really, really impressed me. Not only did he impress me, but I think in the first 2 preseason games, I think Daeshon Hall is the best player on the field. He has been the best player on the field. He had a sack. He had 2 sacks last night, forced fumble. He was everywhere. He was in on almost every play. And this is what we saw from him last week. Even when he wasn't making tackles or sacks, every play he was wreaking havoc in the backfield. Daeshon Hall is really, really good. And let me tell you, that not in a million years did I think that I would say what I'm about to say. But, going to camp, I was saying, who's going to be that 4th defensive end? It's going to be Josh Sweat. Most likely it's going to be Josh Sweat. Right now, Daeshon Hall is my 4th defensive end. He is my 4th defensive end. He is making this team. Okay, he has 3 sacks in 2 weeks. He's been good, and he was out there at the same time as Josh Sweat, going up against the same competition, and he was in on every play. He was ridiculous. That defensive line throughout the whole game, from the starters with Brandon Graham, all those guys were in, to the guys that were in the fourth quarter. That defensive line wreaked havoc on the Jaguars all night. But nobody did it more than Daeshon Hall. He is fantastic, and I think he is a 4th defensive end on this team. Now, when I talk about him in this regard, some people are going to say, oh, you're acting like he's a Pro Bowler. Don't get caught up. It's preseason. I'm talking about from winning the 4th defensive end spot. I'm talking about that. I'm not saying he's a Pro Bowler or he's a starter or anything. I'm saying right now he's winning that 4th defensive end spot. And if that's the talent you have at your 4th defensive end spot, you are in really good shape as a football team and a defensive line. He was fantastic. I can't emphasize enough how impressed with Daeshon Hall I am. He is on every play. He is wreaking havoc, okay? Another guy who I thought was really good tonight was Sharif Miller. Sharif Miller, the rookie, showed that he can get to the quarterback too. And he made some nice plays. He had himself a sack, and I was very impressed with him. I would say that Daeshon Hall and Sharif Miller were my top 2 defensive ends last night. Now, Josh Sweat, I thought, had a really good game as well last night. I thought he was much, much better than he was week 1. He was a lot quicker off the ball than he was in the first game. I thought he had a really good game. Josh Sweat had a strong game, but Daeshon Hall had a fantastic game. He to me was the MVP of the game. Okay, that's how good Daeshon Hall was. So if I had to give you my depth chart for defensive ends right now, it would be, of course, you have Derek Barnett, Brandon Graham, Vinny Curry. Then you have that 4th defensive end spot. I would say Daeshon Hall would be my 4th defensive end spot, and then Josh Sweat, and then Sharif Miller. It's a fierce battle going on at that defensive end spot. And right now, Daeshon Hall, after 2 weeks in preseason, in my opinion, he's winning it. One of the other things I noticed with Josh Sweat was I thought he played better when they moved him over to over the right tackle. When they moved him to that left end spot from the right end, which he played most in week 1 of the preseason, he switched sides this time. I thought he was much more effective rushing from that side than the other side. That's just something to keep in mind. But I thought Josh Sweat overall, he had a good game. Obviously, I thought Daeshon Hall and Sharif Miller were fantastic. When the starters were in, Malik Jackson was good. Brandon Graham was constantly getting around the edge. And I liked this defensive end. The whole defensive line last night was fantastic. They were fantastic. Even Aziz Shatu at the end of the game, when he came in, he goes in and he has a sack. The defensive line ruled the day last night, no doubt about it. But it all starts with Daeshon Hall. Daeshon Hall, to me, was the MVP of last night's game. He was fantastic, and right now, he is my 4th defensive end. He is making the spot, but not only is he making the spot, but he's winning that 4th defensive end spot over Josh Sweat right now, in my opinion. I'm going to tell you another guy who I thought was really impressive last night, and I really liked the fact that this guy showed up, and that was TJ Edwards. TJ Edwards had himself a game. He had himself a game. He made his presence known, and that's what I expected from him. I think this guy's got a good shot at making his team. TJ Edwards, in my opinion, was very impressive last night. And I'll say this too. I thought Zach Brown, he may not practice good during training camp and stuff, but when you get into the preseason games, when you get into games, Zach Brown shows up. Zach Brown shows up. He showed up last night. He had a good game, and I have a lot more confidence after these first few weeks in that linebacking core, especially with Camus Grugier Hill out and Bradham still out. Because look, I think guys like LJ Fort last week played really well. I thought TJ Edwards played really well this week. Zach Brown has looked much better in preseason games than from what we're hearing in practice. So the linebacking core has given me some hope. So those were really the standouts for me on the defensive side of the ball. Malcolm Jenkins played good when he was in there, but I'm not really focusing on the starters so much because we know what they can do. I'm talking about more the guys who are trying to win spots on the roster, guys who are trying to win, the fourth defensive end spot or whatever it is. But from a defensive standpoint, those are the guys who stood out really, really well to me. Now, on the offensive side of the ball, I talked about Thorson. I thought he had a good game. I mean, he wasn't perfect. He still makes mistakes. He's still got a lot to go, a lot more to go. But from a developmental standpoint, a guy that you want on your practice squad, he won't even be on the practice squad. He'll be your third quarterback. But a guy just to be, a guy to learn, to figure out the system, see if Doug Peterson and these guys can mold him into a quarterback. I think the kid's got talent. I liked what I saw from him. The guy that I was really impressed with yesterday, though, was my man, Miles Sanders. Miles Sanders averaged 6 yards a carry last night, and he shows flashes. He shows flashes of how good, how explosive he could be. Think about the first run of the game, man. He made a move and cut, and boom, he's gone. He is exciting. He is a very exciting player, and that was what I wanted to see from him. We didn't see that in game one. We saw in game two of the preseason, and we'll see more as time goes on. I mean, he wasn't consistent, but when he did have a few big runs, he showed flashes of how good he could be. I thought Jordan Howard was good and effective. What I like about Jordan Howard is, you can see that LeGarrette Blount role he's going to play, especially in the fourth quarter and third and short, those situations. He can keep the chains moving. He can pick up the hard yards. And I expect good things from Jordan Howard. The whole combo of Howard, Miles Sanders, is very impressive to me for the Eagles. I think they got, actually, when you really look at the running back situation, okay, I wouldn't be surprised if they have to move somebody. Seriously, okay, because there's a lot of guys that are showing up at these running back spots, and I got to tell you, I'm not sure I want to cut many of them. So I don't know what the Eagles are going to do. But if I had to update my depth chart at running back right now, here's my depth chart at running back right now. It would be Jordan Howard right now is 1, Miles Sanders is 2, Darren Sproles is 3, Corey Clement is 4, and then I would say right now you'd have to put Smallwood over Josh Adams. I think Smallwood has had a better camp and a better preseason than Josh Adams. I thought he was better last night. He was better week 1, and I would put him above Josh Adams. And then when you look at Boston Scott had a really good game. He had like 7 carries, 40-something yards, but he's explosive. You see what he gives you. He's very Darren Sproles-ish, you know what I mean? And I got to tell you, I don't want to lose Boston Scott. I don't want to lose him. They have to stash him on IR. If they're going to use him special teams, then I would do it. But I don't want to lose him. And as far as I'm concerned, I would move him probably ahead of Josh Adams on the depth chart. Josh Adams, I'll get to in a minute, but I thought some of these running backs definitely had pretty good outings. I was very impressed with Boston Scott. Even Donnell Pumphrey had a few good runs. Now, I don't think he can make the team. He's still too small, but it's nice that he showed us something. It really is. But the running back situation, we are deep, and we are going to be fine there. And it's going to be an interesting battle to see what they do. I wouldn't be surprised if they traded a Smallwood or somebody like that, because you just don't want to cut the guy for nothing, and you don't want to lose Boston Scott. So we'll have to figure out, and we'll have to see. I thought Marquand Michel had another good game. He only had 1 catch, but the catch he did make on that little wide receiver screen and then run with that explosion, I like the kid. I like his speed. I like his athletic ability. And I'll tell you this right now. When I look at the wide receiver depth chart, of course, you have Alshon, Daeshon, Nelson Aguilar, and then Arcega-Whiteside. Okay, those are my 4 guys. Right now, my 5th guy is Marquand Michel. I have him above Hollins, even though it was nice to see Hollins play yesterday. It was nice that he was out there. I still think Marquand Michel is ahead of him on my depth chart. So it's going to be very interesting to see. Agadosi, I thought, had a much better game, made a really nice catch. He's a guy that I want the Eagles to keep. I look at him as a guy to get, put on your practice squad. But I like what I saw from him, and Greg Ward with the catch and the touchdown. I mean, it was an underthrown ball. He came back, got it, and then ran it in. He's another guy that has to be moving up the depth chart. So I might put even Greg Ward above Hollins. You know what I mean? Not that I don't like Hollins. It's just that he's been hurt so long. It's going to be an interesting battle. I don't know what the Eagles are going to do at receiver and running back because there's a lot of battles on the back end of those positions that are going on. But Marquez Michel I was very impressed with. I thought Thega Whiteside had a great game. Mac Hollins was nice to see him out there. He had a couple catches as well. Yeah, it was very interesting. Now, there were some guys that I wasn't happy with. What is that? The guy Ashes. Anyways, there was a couple guys I was not happy with last night. Josh Adams, to me, has been disappointing. I mean, he had the fumble first game. I didn't really think he did much last night. He had the one nice catch where he turned it up and got a first down. But other than that, I think Josh Adams is falling drastically behind some of these other running backs. So, to me, I wasn't that big on him. Matt Pryor, yesterday, offensive line, too many penalties. He hasn't been too good. And then Josh Hawkins has been horrible in the secondary for the Eagles. And those guys, to me, right now, all three of those guys are on the outs, in my opinion. So I'm going to be watching the game over and over again, and we'll figure it out. I mean, there's a lot more that I want to look at. Like I said, I really haven't had a chance to watch this game all the way through again yet. I'm sure I'm going to do it 3, 4, 5 times during this weekend, and I'll be talking about things that stand out to me. But I would like to know, how you guys feel about this roster so far. Who stands out to you? Who you don't like so far? Who would you cut? Who would you keep? I really want to know. And let me also just take a second to thank everybody that was in the live stream. Man, we have a lot of people in these live streams for preseason. It's blowing my mind, and it's fun, man. I'm having so much fun. I love streaming with you guys, and we're going to be doing it all year, every game. So be there and hang out, and it's going to be fun. But I just wanted to thank you, everybody, for coming out to the live stream last night. I really, really appreciate it. With that said, take care. Talk to you later. Don't be a dingbat.